This video is going to differ from the content that I normally make, which is primarily composed of YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and other forms of edited content. Unlike those pieces of content online, this video will be released in full. No edits, no background noise, and no other qualities hidden from the audience. This video will be available on my YouTube channel forever, or unless I decide to delete it. So there's no script. I created an outline like in 5 minutes, but I wanted to make this video for a while. And I wouldn't say it's very serious, but I think it's very pertinent to a condition that a lot of people my age are feeling right now, and it relates to the political sphere. So lately, I've just been feeling overwhelmed by the news. And this has always been a problem, but it's been a problem now more than ever. And I think this topic matters to our generation in particular, like Generation Z and Gen Alpha, for a couple of reasons. The first is that now there's a constant stream of bad headlines. And while this has been the case for a long time, it's particularly exacerbated by the digital media phenomenon. We now have a lot of journalists online, a lot of Substack articles, and a lot of places where people can publish content. And as a byproduct of that, we as humans, especially younger people in today's society, have been conditioned to receive as much information as possible. And this is a problem I'm going to talk about later in this video as well. The second reason as to why it's particularly pertinent for a lot of people my age is that doom scrolling and digital fatigue has become a huge problem. Like I said before, digital media has taken over, but as a byproduct of that as well, we all have developed shorter and shorter attention spans, and we now consume more content now than ever, which is having a numbing effect on all of our brains. And third, I just want to say, you're not alone if you feel this. Me uploading a video is testament to the large problem this has become in today's society. And my goal in this video is to convey this problem, why it's happening, and what we can do to help solve this issue. Okay, so let's talk about the problem. And the problem is what I consider to be a news overload. And the news overload is basically just a feeling of regurgitating and absorbing rapid news cycles. Essentially, tragedies happen, the news reports on it, and we go back to normal. And the reason why that is so distinct from the news media in the past is that now tragedies are reported within seconds. There is an instant feedback between the news media reporting on a tragedy and it happening. But there is a disconnect between the reporting and things being done. And an unfortunate byproduct of that is that people my age will believe that there is nothing they can do to solve the issues. And who wouldn't? If people were constantly reporting on news, tragic news, maybe it's about school shootings, maybe it's about election misinformation, about your vote not being considered, etc., etc. Why would you think that your voice mattered if no progress was seemingly made? And an important distinction to make is that just because the news media reports that progress isn't being made doesn't mean that progress isn't being made in actuality. And there are a few ways how you can get to understand what progress is being made, but again, I'll cover that in the later portion of this video, which you'll want to tune around for and stick around for. So there is also a condition in today's society among younger people that you are somehow guilty if you are not informed, that you have to keep up with the latest news cycle. Oh, you haven't heard about X issue and Y response? Well, then you're not an informed citizen. And I want to get at that definition. To me, being an informed citizen is not constantly watching the news. Being an informed citizen means developing critical thinking skills to understand whether or not information being presented to you is truth or false. Let me repeat that. Being an informed citizen does not mean you need to always watch the news. That is huge, and that definition is going to come up later in this video. And I just wanted to give a couple of personal stories about this issue of news overload, the term that I like to use to describe this condition. For me, whenever a school shooting happens, or whenever a violent political event happens, be it the events on January 6th, be it the attempted assassinations of President Donald Trump, wherever you lean on the political spectrum, we can all agree violence is probably bad. You know, accepting a few people from the fringes of politics, but those people are few of many and hopefully remain that way. The issue is that when we are desensitized to those types of violence occurring all the time, it gets really depressing really quick. And it's a part of the reason why we need to unplug. And I'll also share another anecdote, and this has happened over a while now. But my screen time has been increasing, and in part, that is because I'm consuming so much more news content. While I also publish a lot of news content, it's also true that I consume a lot of it too. And as a byproduct, I'm not living my life. And I think that's what a lot of other people are going through as well. And mentally, there are a couple of things happening. Biologically, the human brain is not designed for 24/7 global crisis output. It simply isn't. And anyone who tells you it is either lying to you or making a profit. We need to unplug. It is necessary that at least at some portions of the day, we get out of our bubble and we observe the world around us in an unfiltered manner. That is the only way that the brain can recuperate and be ready for more information that comes its way. And we are also facing an alert fatigue, an emotional numbing, and a certain sense of anxiety. The fact of the matter is that we are not conditioned for all of these events that are constantly being purged at us or being shot at us. So that's sort of the problem. A huge portion of that problem is that even when we are faced with this pain, even when we are presented with this pain, somehow, for some reason, we feel compelled to keep watching. And there are a couple of reasons for that. In my personal experience, it's been threefold. The first is a fear of missing out. I don't want to partake in a political discussion where I don't know the event that has happened. And in a society where events that are major and potentially altering to the present in a groundbreaking way happen every week, it's nearly impossible to keep up. I want to be aware and to care, but at what cost? So that's the first reason why that keeps happening. The second reason is that of responsibility. I talked about the definition of civic awareness or being an informed citizen earlier in this video, but I subscribe to the mainstream definition of an informed citizen, of a civically aware citizen. And that definition was a person who kept track of the news, no matter how rapid it was and no matter how fast it was. I now know that that is not the actual definition, that a more constructive definition is simply the development of key critical thinking skills. The third reason why I felt compelled to keep watching was that of a media incentive. And this is a cause that is external. It is not an internal cause. You are not biologically wired to do things for this reason. And that reason is media incentives, as I said before. So the media is designed to keep you hooked. They may be an external pillar of democracy, but that is also a critical role because just like every other company, the media is designed to make a profit. And of course, that's not true for certain government-owned uh, agencies or media outlets, but they also kind of collect donations or in a way um, incentivized to have more donations than they do costs. But I digress. And a reason why this idea of media incentives and this cause of media incentives is so ameliorated or is so augmented in current society is that we have algorithms now. News media does not come to our front doorstep every Sunday on a physical piece of paper. Now, the news media comes in the form of algorithms, of digital information. And that is important because now the media is able to understand what people read more. Is it drama? Is it entertainment? Or is it about key issues affecting people in politics? And what's particularly dangerous about this, and there's a lot of literature on this outside this video, it is that of bubbles. Because of the digital media, because the media is now digital and online, it is much more effective at trapping people within their own narratives by connecting people with others who believe what they believe and not with those who may disagree to form constructive criticism. The media landscape has isolated people. It's become barren, but populated at the same time. So, what can be done about this issue, about the media, about why we keep watching, and all the other problems? Well, there are a couple of things that we can do. The first is to set boundaries. And this has worked particularly well with me. What I've done is that I have established times throughout the day that I can watch the media. Maybe when I am driving, that's listening to media, podcasts, whatnot. When I am, certain time blocks throughout the day, be it in the evening. I don't watch the news in the morning because I like to start the day out clear. But that has worked particularly well with me. And another boundary I set is I can't, listen to the news while eating. That's one thing that's worked for me. Um, Something else that can be done is curating your feed. So you can follow and unfollow certain accounts. After I've realized that my consumption of media was a problem, I've decided that I'm going to unfollow any accounts that, spew hateful rhetoric, be it on X, be it on, you know, Instagram, be it on any other platform like Blue Sky or anything else. I like to follow solution-based or good news outlets, and these outlets tend to promote more objective values. That does not mean that you have to only follow traditional media outlets, because a lot of times traditional media is also responsible for dividing people and for spewing hateful content. They're not always perfect. I like to do my own research on media outlets, see who is giving out objective news, the news as it happens, and I will follow them. And I unfollow sensationalist or toxic accounts. These are accounts that spew hateful rhetoric against others in their replies, in their comments. Wow, there's a lot of wasps here. That's okay, I'll sit down here. I hate wasps so much. Anyway, so those are the two sort of mechanisms within the curation of feed solution. It's following solution-based outlets and unfollowing sensationalists or toxic accounts. The third solution is rotating to long-form content. And I think short-form content, and I'll preface that with this, I think short-form content has destroyed discourse and deliberation. Of course, that's kind of ironic coming from me because I primarily do short-form content. But I believe that you cannot, and I've had a lot of trouble with this because when I initially started the Politalk, I was writing articles. Shameless plug, www.politalk435.wordpress.com. I have over 50 articles on there about philosophy, politics, current events. I'm doing a new issue, the Weekly Chirp, which is basically just, I write articles every week, every other week or so, whenever I have time. It's usually posted on Sundays, published on Fridays. You can subscribe to it. It'll come straight to your email, and it's about current events. I've been looking more into war recently. So, you know, objective news from primary source uh, locations of information like Telegram, and I like to synthesize that onto the Weekly Chirp. Go read it, check it out at www.politalk or www.thepolitalk435 at wordpress.com. Anyway, rotating to long form, that's where I was at. I think that books, podcasts, and weekly digests are much better than minute by minute updates, whether they're YouTube Shorts, whether they're Instagram Reels. I think you should only watch YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels whenever the content is definitely objective and it synthesizes the news in a succinct manner, and it doesn't involve, you know, many personal biases. Of course, objective news often is impossible, but you want to try to minimize the amount of bias that you're consuming in your media plate. So the fourth thing that can be done is perhaps the most effective, and it worked the best with me. So in the past, I've only consumed content. I've never actually done anything about it. And that was maddening. Seeing an issue and not being able to afflict change upon that issue. And I mentioned that earlier in this video about how that is so destructive to, political efficacy, how people don't people start to believe that they can't have an impact on democracy and on current politics, which is simply not true. So focus on local impact and personal control. Find a cause that you firmly believe in and stick with it. And it doesn't have to be, if you can't find opportunities, for what you are most passionate about, first, you can create an organization, do something of that nature to further your cause. But you can also just volunteer anywhere that has, a major political cause. And there's a lot of organizations like that. Uh, for instance, after I think it was summer of last year, I began to consume more information about the immigration crisis. And as a result of that, I signed up and was eventually accepted to be a fellow at the Carolina Migrant Network, which, by the way, if you live in the Piedmont, I think they have opportunities in Raleigh too. But check them out, CMN, Carolina Migrant Network. They're great. They do a lot of immigration work. You can go canvassing with them and whatnot. But they're a good organization. Organizations such as that, whether you reside on the right of the political spectrum, the left of the political spectrum, in the center, there's organizations for you, whether it's online or physical. So take action where you can. It's one thing to be behind a screen and consuming a lot of information, and it's another to be out in your environment and constantly contributing to that cause and furthering it. It's really healing to the mind. And a byproduct of going out and taking action where you can is finding a sense of community, which is sort of the 4.5 solution, the 4.5 solution. Oh, my phone is. Okay. There was an alert. Anyway, so finding community is really good and it's really beneficial. I think that's probably been the most helpful solution for me. But honestly, whatever works for you works for you. If you're feeling better mentally after you find a solution and you think it's a long-term fix, then stick with it. And comment down below what you do to help that with your mental, with your productivity, and whatnot. So those are like 4.5 things that you can do to uh, help solve any issues you're having with constant media consumption. So I want to end off this video with this statement. It's okay to step away from the media landscape and unplug. You won't be considered an uninformed citizen. In my experience, when you create things and stop consuming as much media, like I do with the Politalk, like I do with canvassing and whatnot, your mental tends to get a lot better. And you tend to want to contribute to things and use your creativity and try to come up with solutions to problems and whatnot. And stepping away from the media ecosystem does not mean that you don't care about your society, about your country, about your values. It is a prioritization of yourself. And I think that's a very important distinction to make. So, one question you can ask yourself when you're consuming a lot of media in this current media ecosystem, you should ask yourself, and I ask myself this too, is this content helping me care more deeply, or is it making me feel helpless? Let me reiterate that. When you are assessing if a piece of content is good for your mental, is good for your productivity, ask yourself, is this piece of content helping me care more deeply about this issue, or is it making me feel more helpless? That's, if that question, if you answer the latter, unplug. If you answer the former, consume the same amount, maybe consume a little less and do something about the issue that you are hearing about, or you can increase your consumption, learn more about the issue. Absorbing more information is never a bad thing. Independently, in a vacuum, that is never bad. It does become bad when you overconsume, and combined with that overconsumption, because consumption of information is not a bad thing in and of itself. If you're consuming the wrong type of information on the wrong medium, that may become a bad thing. So, as I said before, just switch to long form, do any of the other solutions that I found helpful. And yeah, comment below if you relate to anything I've said in this video, or if you just want to vent. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. And let me know if these types of long form content work. I found a good place outside to do more of these videos, so it might stick, and I might stop doing some of these short form content. But yeah, I'll be here in the next video. I'll see you guys.